Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Hope you had a great Memorial weekend. It was an interesting one, I can tell you that.
It was interesting just getting a couple of days in a row off without having to get up early. That was interesting. But the news continued, Bill. You probably heard about this terrible act of, I think, terrorism in Liverpool, England. They were celebrating a soccer, they call it football, victory over in England.
Yeah, it's football.
Yeah, and some guy in an SUV drove through the crowd, and he intentionally, you saw the video, he intentionally turned into the crowd, taking people down. I don't know whether anybody has been killed. I didn't see that, but I know a lot of people were hurt. And Bill, the thing about this is they do this all the time. I don't care what country you're in. But the authorities, the first thing, before they tell you how many people are hurt, they'll say, authorities don't believe it was a terrorist attack. And I think to myself, what do you need to have a terrorist attack? This guy drove a car through a bunch of people intentionally. That's enough terror for me. Maybe he's not part of an organized terrorist movement, although that's yet to be determined. I don't know how they could even find out in less than a day who this guy was. They did say he was a white man from Liverpool. Well, do you remember that guy Garcia who went down? We shipped him down to El Salvador. He lived in Maryland. They called him a Maryland man. A Maryland man. He wasn't from Maryland. He was originally from El Salvador. But the media loves to play games like that. We don't know much about this guy. As I looked at the update, that says, please check back for updates. They haven't got all the facts on this guy yet. They haven't got their story together. But it was a terrible thing. It reminded me of what happened, Bill. Was it in Wisconsin when that guy drove his crowd through the dancing grannies at a Christmas parade, and the media let it just fade away. It was like 14.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You got to wonder what these guys are doing or what they're thinking, because I saw the video. There was intent there. It wasn't a disoriented little old lady that happened to drive through the crowd and not lose her faculties and innocently hurt or maim innocent people. This was a person that had cognitive ability that just drove into the crowd and ran over people, and swerved, left to right to hit individuals. There was intent there. So to say it was not a terrorist attack or a planned attack is a bold-faced lie.
Yeah.
And they're trying to cover up something bigger and deeper. You got to wonder what that is. But there's so many cases of unanswered questions.
Oh, my God. I was sitting over the weekend thinking about that, just that question. How many stories have we done on this program that should have been long-lasting big stories, and by the end of a weekend they disappear? It happens on a Friday, and by Monday you're already talking about something else entirely. I think, for example, Bill, James Comey and that threat on the beach was a big news item, and they've just...
he blames his wife for it now.
Oh yeah, what a guy.
He's selling a book. But you know what? It's beyond selling a stupid book. Number one, don't buy the damn book. Number two, don't buy the story. Number three, take that guy and lock him up, and it's done, over with. Forget about it. Forget the left. Forget everything. Get to the fact. There's another breaking story, and I didn't realize it. We were talking about it earlier, and it just popped up on the screen. But apparently something's beginning, and it was one that I wondered if it was going to happen.
What's that?
And that is OpenAI. It begins. OpenAI's O3 model disobeys human instructions during test and sabotages shutdown mechanisms. AI is now
Thinking for itself.
thinking for itself. You don't need that. No, you don't want to do that. No, I'm not going to do that for you. And I was bitching about that just this morning.
You and I, before we did our show, we had put a question to two separate AI programs at the end of last week. First, I asked ChatGPT a question, got a very interesting answer about the deep state and its plans. And then you asked Grok the same basic question and got it's basically a similar response. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was
Pretty similar.
yeah. But then you asked, what was it that you said? It started to give you. Oh, you wanted, and this we won't get into specifics here, but you asked the AI to help you out on a project, and on that project, it gave you an answer that you thought was pretty interesting. It was, it has the facts and the details. Oh, that's great. Until you checked yourself, you physically checked some of these facts, and found out that it was all BS.
Well, actually, I looked at it and I said, well, on the surface, it looked good. As I read down, I was going, I knew for a fact that, that it wasn't correct. So I sat there and I said, gee, where did you get this information? Oh, I got it from this and this and this and this website. I'm sitting there going, well, here's a heads up for you. This event that you talked about, it's past tense. These particular components of that event, they never were a part of it, and they sure as hell aren't going to be happening coming up. You have fabricated this, or you have bad information. That's where it paused.
Wow.
And then it finally goes, I'm sorry for the misinformation. It doesn't say that it did it.
But what I like, you said this when we were talking. It asked you, at what point do we reach a disconnect or something like that? It asked you a strange question, and I thought, wow, it's taking the lead on the questioning here. But it doesn't surprise me, Bill. I think we talked about this on Saturday. I think right now there's a very good possibility that the Trump administration and the deep state it's two battles of two AIs, essentially.
Yeah, and I did that. I actually did an experiment before everything went crazy. I sat there and said, let's take the other side. If you are the deep state and you are being attacked from your question, how would you counter that? And I have that, I saved it in, as a print document. But what I see going on, it is a computer. And it means that somebody is inputting information that it goes by. It takes from the internet. It takes from internal programming. There is somebody somewhere at a computer going, okay, it's time now to screw everybody. So what I'm telling you right now, if you're thinking about AI, forget about it. It's not there because it's been manipulated, and it is poison. It's a poison
Well, you know what
pill.
else is a little scary too, Bill? My wife and I were talking about this over the weekend. I can remember not too long ago, I'm talking like 5 years, watching a video from Boston Robotics. And it was, they were showing one of their robots, and the problem they were having is the robot couldn't walk properly. The robot couldn't keep its balance, could definitely not climb stairs. This is only 5 years ago.
And now it can.
There is a Tesla robot right now that they have a video. You can check this for yourself. It's gone viral. It does like the moonwalk. This thing can dance like Fred Astaire. I'm telling you that they've solved the problem about balance and robotics. I looked at this thing, and at first I thought, this has got to be CG. This has to be computer graphics. This has to be animation of some kind. And I read the article, and they said, no, this is real. This is absolutely real. This was a demonstration put on by Tesla Robotics, to show you how far they've come, because they plan to send robots on the first Mars trip. It's not going to be people on the trip. It'll be robotics.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, they've really come a long way. They can climb stairs. They can dance now. They can run.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if you put AI and those things together, you are in serious trouble. And, the more you make of these things, the cheaper it is to make them.
Yeah.
They can make armies out of these things.
Well, it can get worse, and it can get deeper, and maybe we'll explore that coming up next. But right now, I think it's time to take a pause for the cause and ask you to like and share our show.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com.
So you know who's thinking about AI and its use?
Who?
David Sachs. He's wondering if AI can solve U.S. The financial situations, basically run our government. After what we just talked about, do you think that's a good idea?
I think AI is already running a good part of our government. I
Oh, I
think
do
during the
too.
Biden administration, a lot of the decisions that were being made through a computer. And don't think for a second that Elon Musk just decided during the Trump campaign to stroll in his direction. I think that there's been a plan that's been worked on for probably years that includes Elon Musk, and including going back to buying X, Twitter. I think that far back, and the Trump administration, they didn't just suddenly discover each other. I think they've been friends for a while, and I think, and you got to remember, Elon Musk is the guy who invented ChatGPT, and then he sold that, and then he invented Grok.
Here's where I have the problem with AI. AI, I think, is a good thing. But I think where it goes wrong is when it connects to the internet. When it connects to the internet, that's where the poison is. The poison pill is in the knowledge that it gets access to that is corrupt. And it becomes a part of its function.
But
and a part of
that
its
horse
knowledge
has
base.
left the barn, Bill.
I know.
They'll never change that. They have. If you ever get down to Washington, you are going to see they're building them like Dunkin' Donuts. If you're familiar with Dunkin' Donuts, they're on every corner, right? Especially up in New England. But in Washington, and I guess they've done this because they're also patting somebody's palm, there are numerous big facilities that are designed just to power AI. They are, I guess, generation systems of some kind, or a battery. I don't even know what's in the buildings, and they're not being very open about them. But they're buildings that are designed to power AI, and there are numerous buildings going up. No big thing, no big discussion about them. They're just popping up.
Who's paying for it?
Oh, I think the government, but I think private industry probably is too. It is amazing how much money they're putting into these facilities. AI is it's frightening, folks. And I look at my grandkids and I think, what kind of a world are they going to live in a short time? It has grown from an interesting idea to a part of our world, an active part of our world. AI, it's not even, they take the A away, artificial, because it's really and truly intelligence right now. Not much artificial about it. It's thinking. Bill, I could go on. It is going to be interesting to see if they can control this. I have a feeling that they've created a monster they can't control.
Yeah, and I got a lot of thoughts swirling around in my head. You know what they are. I sit there, but you look at AI, what it is now. I think about all the times we were fighting the one world order, the Bilderberger societies, or society. The deep state, is it the money people of the world? What is it? Or the military industrial complex? Or did it start, like you said, with Rockefeller, and then all of a sudden you get this big deep state money and it controls the military industrial complex, and maybe this construct is now deciding that the only way to have its one world order to control everything is to destroy the nations of the world. Because in my mind, I see that, the problems that we have here, they're everywhere.
You ever
And
think
it's
that
all the same.
maybe the Wizard of Oz was about the deep state, and that the wizard was the what we see? It's the glitz of what we see, and the real force behind it is behind the curtain. you know, so we look around and we see all these different people who are, quote, running the government. See, this is the problem. I think that they have had people in the presidency up until Trump who understood the system. They understood how it works. So there wasn't a lot of pushback on the part of the executive branch. I think the problem they had is this outsider who doesn't know the system, who is naive enough to think that, you know, he can make a difference. Donald Trump gets in there and he starts to push back on the deep state. They've never had this pushback before. The closest they may have come was an actor, Ronald Reagan, back in the 80s. That's about as close as it came. But I think they kind of put him in his place, Bill.
Yeah, but I look at the pushback, and you know, I look at, and maybe it was because of people sitting there trying to, you know, the Democrats, you know, they were all over the internet this weekend, you know, and I'm out doing my New England getaway, and I see things pop up in your timeline, and I'm going, oh, geez, you know, like they were saying, oh, Ted Nugent, Kid Rock, and Bruce Springsteen. Springsteen's an American patriot, and I'm going like, okay, Ted dodged the draft, you know, and they're making a big deal. Kid Rock was born into a rich family. Okay, can't help that. Bruce was a big textbook perfect draft dodger. He dodged it all the way around. That Born in the USA, that was the biggest protest song there ever was. It was not a salute to any veteran. Don't let him lie and say it was. He was a draft dodger and anti-American since day one. But, you know, I look back at the history, and then somebody had made the mention. They said, you know, they brought up the Vietnam War. You know, the only war we ever lost, you know, is Republicans. I'm going, well, wait a minute. Truman. Really, that started during Truman. Eisenhower was there. Eisenhower is the one that made us aware to beware of the military-industrial complex. Kennedy gets in. What did Kennedy want to get us out of?
He wanted to get us out of the Vietnam War. He already had.
Then he met death.
Yeah, and he had the ball in motion already.
Mm-hmm. LBJ came in, got us deep into it. You're right. You know, we didn't win that, but we didn't lose it either. You see, it was not about the body count or achieving any objective except making money by making more guns, making more planes, making more bombs. And then Nixon got in. He did end it. Now you're going, oh, Watergate. Well, you know, you can take that for whatever you want. He never admitted to it. And whatever happened there, he was aware something was wrong. And finally, he just sat there and said, I'm not a crook. I'm out of here, buddy. You know, stick it. And he walked away from it. The only commonality there today to then is Hillary Rodham Clinton. She wrote those papers.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, our history stinks, and there is something going on, and the Democrats are deeply seated in. I'm not saying Republicans are you know, angels in this.
I heard over the weekend people saying, well, you know, if Trump were really a man of the people, why would he put this big, beautiful bill together that brings us actually, what, $2 trillion more into debt? I mean, it actually expands our debt. And Trump is the guy who wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, okay? He is a deal maker. That's how he thinks. Everything he does is 5 moves ahead of the final thing that he wants. People don't believe that about him, but everybody that I've read who really knows the guy says, no, do not second guess this guy. Do not make the mistake of selling him short. He is a brilliant guy. So the first thing that happens recently, and the media is all over this, you've seen it, you've seen the stories. Oh, the big, beautiful bill just squeaked by with 1 vote. And it leaves us in debt, a massive amount of debt. Over the weekend, the big story was Ron Johnson talking about how he has the votes to stop it in the Senate. Listen.
I couldn't care less if he's upset. I'm concerned about my children, my grandchildren, and the fact that we are stealing from them. We are stealing from our children and grandchildren. $37 trillion in debt, and we're going to add to it as Republicans? That is unacceptable. And that's why there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill in its current form.
And the Wisconsin senator was on, I guess, I think it was CNN. It might have been Fox. He continued.
We're out of time, but I'm just wondering if you could just give me a number. How many other Republican senators do you think share your concerns and are willing to make major changes to this bill?
I think we have enough to stop the process until the president gets serious about spending reduction and reducing the deficit.
Okay, so now the big story is, well, it looks like there's trouble in paradise. Oh, the Republicans are going after each other. But I want you to think about something. Trump puts this massive bill together, and he sends it to the House of Representatives, and he says, pass this big, beautiful, pass it. And they fight about it, and they were talking about it wasn't going to get through the House, but finally it squeaks by with one vote. Then it goes to the Senate, and Trump knows that it's going to be stopped in the Senate. There's going to be adjustments in the Senate. They're going to take an axe to it in the Senate and lob a bunch of stuff off. And I think where the negotiation behind the scenes is, they'll discuss what to take out of it. All right, you want to take something out of it? Let's talk about what you're taking out of it. And I think that in the end, the bill that'll go back to the House and get approved and then signed by the president will be a smaller bill, very much more in line with what the president wanted. See, if he went to the House with the exact bill that he wanted, they would fight about it, all right? And then they would send it up to the Senate, and they'd still cut it down, and then they'd have a lesser bill. But by taking it and making it big and then cutting some of the fat off it in the Senate and sending it back and finally signing it, he gets something closer to what he really wanted in the first place.
Yeah. You know, Mark Twain had a quote one time, sometimes too much to drink is barely enough. Sometimes you have to sit there and, I guess overindulge to sit there and realize what you really need. So, the right now, this is, it's an exercise in getting to, the end result. So
well, I think
let it play out.
I think he has thought about this going into it, and I think he knew that in order to get what he wanted, he had to ask for a lot more. I don't think he ever planned on overindulging. I think he planned on letting them think that he was going to overindulge and then having them lob a lot of it off and trim it down, and they think they got what they wanted, and Trump in the end gets exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, too much of everything will end up being just enough of all the things you need. When it's all said and done. It's kind of a paradox. But either way, it works, and give it a chance to work out. It will. But, the other side wants to take everything that they can and just sit there and go after, anything they can to sit there and try. The Democrats are in power, and not in power. They're in trouble. And they'll do anything and everything they can to try
They want to spend $20 million to look around to find somebody who can be the Democratic version of Joe Rogan.
Well, I don't think, here, okay, you know what? Here's a headline for you, Democrats. That might be a stupid thing for you to do because, see, Rogan was more left than he was ever center or right. It was your antics that made him seem more right than anything, because as he was getting closer, sniffing out the news, he goes, ugh, this really stinks. And he was smelling your arses, not ours.
Well, a lot of guys on the left, a lot of entertainers who are, quote, liberal, they don't pay attention to really what's going on. It's a superficial glance at what's happening in the news, and then they respond. They think they're liberals, and, oh, that's that Trump man. Oh, did you see how the Trump man smiled at that? Oh, I mean, it's superficial stuff. When they start to take a moment, when they sit down for a few minutes and actually look at what's happening, just like Joe Rogan, a lot of them figure, oh, this stinks. This is not good. This is not, wait a second, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, like you said, he was more of a leftist than anything else. You guys lost him. The guys on the left lost him. Go ahead.
Even when he brought Trump on to talk with Trump, he wasn't all in for Trump. And I wouldn't say he is now, but he realized, wait a minute, I've heard all these things about this guy, and I believed him.
Well,
And they're not true.
another guy's doing a slow walk to the right. I don't want to say this because I'm sure he's dragging his feet doing it is Bill Maher.
Yeah, because he's been brought up that way. We've all been entrenched in this Democrat diatribe of hate, bad blue, bad red, bad Trump, and all of this stuff. And and that's actually who's the who's the puppeteer pulling these your strings if you're on the left, because that's what's
Yeah.
happening. There's a big player that's pulling the strings of the Democrats, and those Democrats are organized and they're pulling the strings of their constituents. I hate that word.
The other thing that I gotta, before I forget this, that I wanted to mention on this program was, on the weekend you have a lot of time on a holiday weekend. You watch movies and just goof off. And I watched the. I had seen one of them before, and I was taken back by the violence in it. But I watched John Wick 2 and 3, back
yeah.
to back. And, folks, if you haven't seen it, first of all, I like Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, personally, from what I understand, he's a gentleman, and he's a dignified guy, and he's an actor. I know you may not believe it, but, you have to understand that these big movie companies, they wheel up armored cars filled with money to these guys to be in these movies because they generate so much
Right.
cash. The thing that gets me about these John Wick movies is the incredible amount of violence. It's made to look commonplace and ordinary. In John Wick, I believe 3, the third one, there are 173 deaths. 173 on-screen deaths, meaning, and they're shot, they're stabbed, they're axed. You name it. That's what happens to these
Kind
people.
of trivialized.
It becomes, you become numb to it. You don't even think about the fact that a human being just got killed in front of you because you just saw 55 others in the last 30 minutes get killed. And I was thinking, where are we going with the media? Where are we going with movies? What are our kids seeing? Don't ever let your kids, if they're under a certain age, if they're young teenagers, I would never let them see a John Wick movie. I just wouldn't do it. You have to use your friggin' brains.
People don't, and here's a lesson for you. It used to be, because I sit there and I watch what kids see, kids that are under 16, under 13, under 10, and they get the remote and they turn on TV, but they're not really watching quote unquote television because there's still cussing laws and nudity regulations in commercial broadcast over the airwaves. Internet's not over the airwaves. It's through your cable, through your phone, and guess what? It doesn't have those regulations. So your kid can essentially see naked bodies, simulated sex, can hear every cuss word, foul language, vile thing there is out there. It's all free and clear for everyone on the internet to see and really love and enjoy with their family. Isn't that nice?
The other program that I watch, but I can do it because I'm a little older and I can differentiate between, what's real, what's not real, and I'm a
Right and wrong.
yeah, right and wrong. But I'm still amazed. I like Pierce Brosnan. I like Tom Hardy. I like Helen Mirren. They're in this series called Mobland, which I like. I like it a lot. It's set in England. But I've never heard so much cursing in my life. It's like every other word. And by the way, it's not your run-of-the-mill, calm, gentle curse. It is the crudest of the crude cursing. And I'm not even going to demonstrate it. Okay? I'm not even going to give you a hint. You know what I'm talking about. The worst of the worst cursing over and over and over. These writers don't know how to finish a sentence without putting at least 2 or 3 curses in it. And I'm thinking, why? How did we get along for 80 or 90 years in the media watching great entertainment, great suspense, great theater without all of this garbage put into our stuff. And is there a reason that they're doing this? Is this part of a worldwide societal movement to corrupt us, to corrupt every part of our being, to get us numb to seeing people slaughtered, and getting numb to seeing the most vile people speak in the most base way? I don't know.
Well,
Go ahead.
it is attack. It is an attack on Christian values, and I say Christian in a very broad sense because somebody goes, "Oh, I'm not a Christian," or "I'm this." Well, people don't even know. They might have been brought up in a particular denomination, but have no clue as to what it is they really do and don't believe.
Yeah.
But either way, the one nice thing about being brought up in a home where you have some kind of structure and religious values, and I hate the word religious, but religious values, is that it does give you a sense of decency and commonality. You're just you're not rooted in filth, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, you going forward into your faith and becoming a Christian, or whatever faith you practice, that's the next advancement. But I got to be careful about faiths because there are faiths out there that promote, like the end of you, Jim, and me.
I want to play a new ad, Bill, which the military is running. It's actually a TV ad, so you won't see the video, obviously. This is an audio program. But it's interesting because it talks about the military in a way that we haven't heard in quite some time. Listen.
No more distractions. No more electric tanks. No more gender confusion. No more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength.
You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible.
Through our power and might, we will lead the world to peace. Our friends will respect us, our enemies will fear us, and the whole world will admire the unrivaled greatness of the United States military. We will replenish the pride of our armed forces, end the recruitment crisis.
We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us.
God bless you. God bless our armed forces. God bless our men and women serving overseas. And God bless the United States of America.
And the video matches the music and the dialogue. It really is a good ad. But what I wanted to mention earlier, and I went off the road, that happens occasionally, is we were talking about these AI power plants they're building around Washington, D.C., and it occurred to me over the weekend, I really believe this is the case, that they have been planning this golden dome they're talking about for a much longer period of time than we're aware of. I mean, we think they just came up with it last week. I think it's been a plan that's been in motion for quite some time. And I think it includes these AI power plants that they're building around, not just Washington, by the way. I'm sure they're building them all over the country. They are probably going to run the Golden Dome with AI.
Probably so. And the amount of computing power it's going to take, and then when I say computing power, I also mean energy to run it. I mean, we're going to need a lot of, I guess, nuclear reactors, small reactors to run everything.
Yeah.
And for what they're building now, you got to believe that they know it's going to take power. So there's already in progress the makes of that, because they're going to need unlimited power. And as AI grows, it's going to, the computations, trillions, quadrillions of of computations in a microsecond.
You know, they won't say this, but the enlistment has grown. I saw the figures in every category: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. In every category, it has grown like massively. They're not just meeting their goals; they're surpassing their goals in every category. And that didn't happen when Biden was president. As a matter of fact, when Biden was president, it was going the other way. People were dying to get out of the military because of what he had done to it. You know, he had emasculated the military, literally. He had taken what made it so unique, and he had sliced and diced it. You know, I want to play for you. Alex Thompson is the co-author. Maybe before we do this, we should pause for
Take
just
a break.
Yeah, pause for just 1 second and remind people to like and share our show.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. Alex Thompson is the co-author with Jake Tapper of a book about Biden and his mental competency, and it's funny. I think it's hilarious to hear Jake Tapper talk about, Biden was not cognitively he wasn't strong enough mentally to be president. Everybody knew it who was watching him for the last 4 years, except for the media. I mean, Jake Tapper and his cohorts didn't figure that one out.
They knew.
I mean, unbelievable. But anyway, this guy, Alex Thompson, is a co-author of Tapper's book. He was a guest on one of the talk shows, and he was talking about who was actually running the country. Who and what would happen if Biden had run for a second term and won the presidency? What were the plans on the part of his administration to run the country when Joe was not competent to do so? Listen.
Quote a longtime Biden aide basically admitting he shouldn't be running again. They said to you on page 85, he just had to win, and then he could disappear for 4 years. He'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while. His aides could pick up the slack. Who would have been running the White House in a second Biden term?
Well, this person went on to say that when you're voting for a president, you're voting for the aides around him. But these aides were not even Senate confirmed aides. These are White House aides. These were unelected people. And one of the things that really I think comes out in our reporting here is that if you believe, and I think a lot of these people do sincerely believe, that Donald Trump was and is an existential threat to democracy, you can rationalize anything, including sometimes doing undemocratic things, which I think is what this person is talking about.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure that if you sat down with Benedict Arnold, right, he could have rationalized anything. He was once the second in command in the army of the Revolution, and he was the guy who everyone thought might be a president. And the guy decided at some point, I need some more money and I'll get it from England. I won't get it from these guys. And he literally turned his coat inside out and became a traitor. And I'm sure he rationalized. Anybody who does stuff like this can rationalize, Alex. This is not a great epiphany moment that you're talking about. And anybody who was paying attention, the common man, you and I, watching television for the last 4 years, saw this guy come out and do the damnedest things in public, and nobody was calling him on him. You guys in the media weren't calling him on him. I mean, I keep pointing to the scene where he's on stage. He mumbles a speech, then he turns to his right, stage left, and he shakes hands with nobody. And I'm thinking, who the hell is he shaking hands with? And the media,
Harvey, the 6-foot invisible rabbit.
The media didn't do a darn thing about it. They just, the president was a little confused getting off the, little confused. If Trump did something like that, you guys would be all over him. You still try to go, they're still trying to make him sound like he has cognitive issues.
Oh, geez.
They ignore the fact, Bill, he took a cognitive test and passed it with flying colors.
Well, they'll take an interview. Now, look, I hear a little bit of age in his voice. Not bad. A little bit of age. We all get it. You get in your 60s, you start seeing stuff like that. As you get a little bit older, I hate to tell you this, folks, but, your teeth shift. Maybe there's not as much gap.
You know
or
what
there's
I
a
hear?
bigger gap.
But I know what you're saying, but I actually hear something different in Trump. I don't hear age so much as a determination.
Yeah, determination.
He's not
But
he's not the glib Trump he was in the first term. He's much more rock solid, and he doesn't take nonsense from anybody anymore.
I look at people in the news and somebody asks them a question, unless it's something that they are hell bent on and that's what they were talking, they're laser focused. You throw a question at this guy from left field, he's going to go, well, I haven't really heard of that, but I'll look into it. That right there, that I haven't heard of that. That they take as a sign of dementia. No, it means that he had no clue what you were talking about when you asked the question. He cannot read minds. He can assume things, but it's better safe to listen to what you say and answer the question and maybe have a second to collect those thoughts.
Thing is, the media will never give you a straight answer about Trump. The media is not out there to be a neutral arbiter. The media is out there to dump all over him at every opportunity.
They're attacking his shoes.
When you, as a supporter of Trump, realize the media just ain't on our side and they never will be, you'll be better for it.
Yeah.
These guys are the worst. They're traitors, in my opinion.
They're attacking him. Well, look how fat he's gotten. And then they show, look how frumpy he looks now because he's lost all this weight.
Yeah.
You know, they do that. Then I saw there was an AI thing over the weekend going, Trump doesn't walk steady anymore. He guesses, he guesses every step he takes. He's not as tall as he used to be, and his feet have shrunk. And so he likes to wear bigger shoes and stuff the ends of them.
Well,
and that
these
makes
guys,
it hard to walk. I'm like, going, what the hell?
Yeah, these
Come
guys,
on.
Bill. First of all, the guy can do nothing right as far as the media is concerned. They lie and they continue to lie. That last thing you said, how would they know what he puts in his shoes?
Come on, this is a crazy, messed up. You could use a letter of the alphabet world, and
Yeah, he's
got
a guy.
a sour grade.
He's a guy, in my opinion, who can, to his supporters, he can do no wrong. To the media, he can do no right. Okay, and that's never going to change. By the way, I should remind people that the left isn't just disappointed and unhappy with Trump. They are really unhappy with you, the supporter of Trump. Comey was talking about, I think he was on MSNBC. It's a very comfortable place for a lunatic on the left to be because they will embrace you and hide all of your faults. If, as a matter of fact, they won't even see him because they think you're just wonderful. Anyway, Comey was there talking to Alex Witt, I believe, and he was talking about not just Trump, but what he was going to do to the MAGA supporters. Listen.
Well, these are the people who, through decades and decades, have seen every kind of case. And so they're there to make sure that the work, no matter who's in charge in the White House, no matter who the Attorney General is, that the work is done consistently with previous practice and consistent with the law. I know Republicans these days aren't big in thinking about principle or precedent. They're going to be deeply sorry that that disappears because someday there will be a Democratic president and there'll be investigations of Republican office holders. If I'm them, I sure would want these career people in place, making sure that it's done in the right way.
You hear how he said the end there? In the right way? This guy is a sick dude. I don't know how he got to where he got, but he is, man, he would easily go after a MAGA supporter. He would easily go after somebody who believed in Trump. This is the kind of guy he is. By the way, I should point out that he actually is hated by the left and the right. The left don't trust him, and the right don't either. So Comey's kind of on an island by himself, but he doesn't care. He's not a nice guy. So anyway, other things that I found interesting over the weekend, besides the Comey threat, he did an update on the Ukraine war. And I want you to listen to how Trump talks about Putin. He up until only a few days ago, he was always kind of positive about Putin. You know,
No, not so much.
Oh, you got to hear what he says here.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
President, what do you want to do about
And I'm
that?
surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
I love the end. Something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, do you think that
Well,
is Putin running his show over there, or is somebody else running him?
Well, you know, that is a possibility because there could be other people that he's having to answer to. Putin, you know, you have to look at the one thing. Putin, if he's not, he wanted to be a part of democracy and be a part of NATO. You know, at one time he was liking what he wanted to make Russia more like America, and he did do a lot of things, but he was a KGB agent. That's his roots. And with everything that's going on here, maybe he's just slipped back to his old ways, to his roots. You know, maybe it's something deeper.
Well, it's interesting, Bill. Do you think that there's a deep state in Russia, too?
Yeah, I do think there's a deep state in Russia. I think there is, you know, they have their own. Look, we're two superpowers, the two biggest powers, and there's China, too. And even, you know, even Z over there has got problems where he's weak right now, and he answers to a hierarchy there. The only difference between China, Russia, and the U.S. is the term of our president. We change leaders more frequently.
Yeah.
Putin's got more time there, but he might be sitting there going, "This isn't working. I've got to go back to, you know, base zero."
You know, there is
go back to the old game.
a large element of people in Russia, diplomats in Russia, who want Russia to be more aggressive. They want Russia to ramp up the war in the Ukraine, to take out Zelensky, and I think that, you know, Putin has his idea is I want to have a country to work with after this thing is over. Yes, they can ramp the war up and they can destroy Kyiv just like they've destroyed other cities to the north along the border, but they've leveled those cities. I mean, taking them off the map. If you do that to Kyiv, when the war is over, what do you have to work with? You have a populace that can't stand you, Bill, and nothing to work with.
Well, you know, what do they have there asset-wise? Are there assets there that are more valuable? Forget about the history that's there. Forget about the people that are there. Is there something more valuable than them?
Well, I mean, they have minerals. They have.
What would that do for Russia?
They have the rare earth minerals. Well, I mean, if Russia owned the rare earth minerals in the Ukraine, it would make a world of a difference. Plus, people don't talk about this, but the Ukraine is a big supplier of wheat and things like that. It's a breadbasket of a country, and that would help Russia in a big way. They relied on it, Bill, when it was the Soviet Union. When it was part of the Soviet Union, they got a lot from it.
So perhaps, you know, what they do is they weed out the unpatriots, and they sit there, and if they have to level ground, they have to level ground. They get what they want, they get what they need, and they're a force. They probably didn't realize many years ago that they didn't. I mean, they knew they had the wheat, but everything else probably wasn't as significant as it is today.
Putin has always presented himself to the world as being an alpha male, a guy who thinks for himself and decides for himself. And Trump definitely is that kind of guy, thinks for himself and goes to the beat of his own drum. Maybe what Trump is finding out is that Putin isn't quite the powerful voice that he presents himself to be. Maybe he's weaker.
Trump is presenting himself as a powerful voice, but is the deep state got a bigger voice? And does he have the same, like you asked before, the same thing under him?
Right.
You know, you got a lot of alpha males running around. Some are good guys, some are bad. But if you got a group of bad ones and you're the lone good one, you know, you got a problem.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Trump is letting the world know that he'll only go so far as trying to work to get an agreement together. If they don't get the job done, if they're negotiating in bad faith, then he's going to walk away. And when he walks away, it's not that we're going to go to war with Russia. It's that he can clamp down economically on Russia. He can cut off a lot of its vital supplies. Mm-hmm. And that's not the kind of thing Russia wants to hear. The U.S. has a lot of influence around the world, not just with supplies that come from us, but supplies that come from other countries, too.
Well, let me ask you a question. Could we see another arms race? You know, nuclear deterrent is the one thing that scares the hell out of everybody. Russia's got a big arsenal, probably bigger than what we know, and it's probably, 70 to 90% all aimed at us.
Here's what we know. China is in a bad way economically. China probably cannot afford to go into an arms race with us. Because we still are, even as weak as we are, we're still stronger than the other countries by a long shot. And Russia hasn't got the financial wherewithal. You know, they went into an arms race with us, and literally the Soviet Union collapsed because of it. When Reagan started the, what was it, Star Wars initiative and stuff like that?
Yeah, the Star Wars.
Yeah, and Russia tried to keep up. They couldn't. And it literally was the demise of the old Soviet Union. And I think that they've got to understand over in Russia is we can only play this game so far. You know, that Star Wars, was the golden shield that they're talking about building. It will nullify the advantage that they have with hypersonic rockets.
Yeah, that is the advantage because, one of the things is, especially, if you look at the planet as the big globe that it is, and if you look how close Russia really is to us, the only thing separating us basically is Canada. They fly over the top, but we see them, and we have a chance to react. With the Golden Dome, we can see everything, and even though they can sit there and take a hypersonic and shoot it around and go around the other way and come up the underside, by the time that it gets within our sights, it's here. We can't react. And that is the beauty of it for them and, the hell for us.
What I heard this weekend, interesting point, is that we have matched them with hypersonic missile technology as of this past summer. Not this summer coming up. As of this past summer, we have matching hypersonic technology. They don't have an advantage on us anymore. That's why you're not hearing Putin talk about it like he did a couple of years ago. They had about a year advantage on us, and everyone thought, oh, boy, they could have done something in that year, and it really could have been devastating for our country. But now we're on par, if not better than. They say that our technology, Bill, no matter what, is still light years ahead of the other countries.
I'll tell you what China's got. They've got, I'll just call it nefarious research. They're the ones that get into the diseases and whatnot. Now, we probably had some gain-of-function help for them. But either way, I look back at COVID, I'm going like, there's more to that story than meets the eye. And
what did we see? What did we see happen? Nobody talked about it at all over the weekend, but I saw the article and I thought, this is big. They said that a new variant of COVID had arrived in, I believe, San Francisco.
Oh, that's great.
And it's a more virulent strain of COVID, more virulent than the other one. Which is like, You got to be kidding. And I thought this would be all over the news all weekend. I didn't see a story about it. Nothing.
Because I think people are kind of used to, well, they're not anesthetized, but they sit there and they know that there's something not right. So they probably put the story out there to say, yeah, we told you about it, but then they're going to let it go away. I was watching a show over the weekend. I think it was yesterday morning. As I was packing up the suitcases to get the hell out of, New England. And the one guy on there, he was talking about, and he was bragging about all different stuff. But he goes, I've had COVID 30 times. I'm sitting there going, if I had COVID once, I wouldn't brag about it, let alone 30 times. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you might want to read some of the stuff, because that means every time you went, you got another shot. So if this placebo real thing, if it's kind of like maybe the do-in drug or it's a placebo, you just lost in the odds. The law of probability is you got something that you're not going to be able to live a full life with. You're going to come down with something.
Yeah, I often wonder, too, if there is another strain of COVID, will we react as a country like we did the first time around? I don't think so. I think this time around it's going to be a totally different approach. I don't think, for example, people will be staying home from work. I think that they'll be going into work. I just think it'll be a whole different approach.
I really think that they gave us COVID. They launched it on us, and the shot was just an excuse to, maybe batten down the hatches of this thing that they were doing. Hey, look, you know what? To talk about things we're doing, it's time for us to take a break. So we do ask you, it's very important we change platforms, and you don't take your audience with you. So as we have audiences on two different main platforms, and trying to grow this other one. So do like and share the program. We do say look for us on Spotify, Jim and Bill, or jimandbill.com. Like and share.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. So another interesting story popped up over the weekend. There's a representative. His name is Glenn Ivey. He was really, really angry. He was down in El Salvador when you were enjoying your hot dogs and hamburgers and saluting the flag and paying tribute to the people who fought and gave their all for our country, like so many of us were doing. He was down in El Salvador trying to get an audience with Garcia, with Abrego Garcia. You remember him? He's the guy who was sent down to that high security prison. He went down, this guy, Glenn Ivey, with a couple of his supporters, and he was denied access to him. And he was really ticked off, so he did what they always do. They posted a video. Listen.
I'm the congressman that represents Tomar. I came all the way down from the United States after we'd contacted their ambassador, after we'd made formal requests to our ambassador to the El Salvadoran government. And we came here to visit him today. And now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador, to get a permit. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming. And they know we have the right to do this. So they need to just cut the crap, let us get in there and have a chance to see him and talk with him. We got his lawyer here. We got somebody from the unions here to talk with him. Let us in. Stop playing games. Let us have a chance to talk with him.
Unbelievable, folks. That's a U.S. representative. He's down in El Salvador. He makes it sound like he has a right to see a prisoner in a foreign country's prison system.
One of his supporters. Okay, did the guy vote for you? Can he vote? You say he's a constituent, which in the definition, of a constituent, it's something other than what you.
It's
believe.
usually a voter who votes for you in your district.
That's the political. That's the political term that they have adopted to it. But it means it's something that he's a part of, or it is usually a voter, and but it's something that he would be a part of too. Well, let's take a look at this.
You know what it
gentleman
usually
down
is,
there.
Bill? It's usually a citizen of your
Yeah, a
district.
citizen. But, he's saying it's something that is a constituent. So that means they're both in the same thing. Well, this guy is MS-13. He's a rapist. He's a killer.
He's a wife
Yeah,
beater.
he's a wife beater. So, Mr. Ivy, are you part of this too?
Well, the other thing that gets me is that no one's talked about this. We know that he was sent down, Borrego Garcia was sent down to CCOT, the high security prison, but they haven't told you that they've moved him to a lower security prison in San Salvador, where he has his own
he's got
room.
All the accoutrements of life.
Yes. 3 meals a day, a nice little room, probably an easy chair in the corner.
Yeah.
TV, maybe. Unbelievable.
Kind of, yeah. A little crazy.
But this guy, this representative, thinks he can go down there and just bully his way into whatever he wants to bully his way into, as if El Salvador is part of the U.S. He's lucky he didn't get arrested. He's like he didn't get thrown into a prison, for causing a problem. But then again, maybe he would have liked that. Maybe he would have made an issue out of that. These people don't have anything going for them other than stunts. They figure, okay, we haven't got a platform. The Democrats are fighting to get some kind of platform, but they can't work that out. They put fatheads in their Democratic National Committee, like David Hogue or Hogg or whatever you pronounce his name. They make him a vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee. The guy's a fathead. The guy's a doofus. You would have thought they'd get some people out there who are really thinkers and brains, people who can contribute to the party and make it stabilized again. No. They hire a guy who's just out of high school. And I want to play another cut, Bill. I look at the clock on the wall.
Ahead.
You're up in Massachusetts, and there's a Massachusetts senator. She's 80 years old, but, she visits the beauty parlor a lot, so she looks younger. But she's 80 or 82, and she wants to limit the amount of miles you can drive in your car.
Why?
Wants to make it a law. Let her explain.
For reducing vehicle miles traveled in Massachusetts.
Saying that electric vehicles aren't enough to reach the net zero carbon mandate by 2050, 82-year-old state senator Cynthia Cream has introduced a bill that would keep track and limit the number of miles you drive with your vehicle.
Now's the time to pursue new strategies, additional strategies for reducing transportation emissions.
The bill establishes a panel that will be responsible for creating fines and penalties if you go above the limit.
It would require the Commonwealth's transportation investment plans to provide a reasonable pathway to compliance with our emission limits.
Mileage vouchers.
To promote alternative modes of transportation, like public transit, biking, walking.
Have you learned how to ride a bike yet?
Thinking about our future needs for transportation options other than cars.
We have to walk.
Legislation like this is a clear indication that it's past time for Cynthia Cream to retire and take up a hobby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously,
sadly,
she doesn't drive herself, obviously.
No, but sadly, there will be people that'll push for that, and you never know.
Cynthia Cream, I think an interesting last name, but she is obviously not one of the greatest minds in the Senate in Massachusetts.
Could you imagine if they passed that and you're going, well, where are you going? We're going to have to go through Massachusetts. So, hey, boss, I got to take 3 months off. It's going to take us about 4 weeks to walk, through Massachusetts and, I don't know, get up to Wells Beach or something like that in Maine.
When I used to work in Boston, back in the old days,
you used to walk to work?
I lived in Connecticut, and I had to drive from so if I got charged mileage every day, I drove from Sturbridge to Boston. And Boston to Sturbridge. Actually, I drove longer, but I'm talking about where the Massachusetts line is. I mean, I would have used up my miles in like 2 days.
So you that means that you are forbid from working in Massachusetts, where you lived.
Yep.
And, if that's the case, you pay federal taxes. Federal tax dollars go there. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't want my tax dollars going into a place that I don't have access to.
Well, Representative Cream. I wonder if her first name is Banana. But anyway, I just had to throw that out there.
Well, nuts and
yeah,
cream.
That's true. Anyway, she is obviously somebody who has a plan. 82 years old. At least she still got some thoughts
Don't
about.
say she's thinking, because that's stupid.
Yeah, that could be a sign of dementia.
That's
actually.
brain rot. Yeah.
So we have Glenn Ivey going down to El Salvador. We have Cynthia Cream wanting to put more to charge you for the miles you drive in Massachusetts. My question is there anybody in the Democratic Party doing anything that's worthwhile for our people? Or are they just all trying to either showboat or put these ridiculous laws together? It doesn't.
Well, probably put ridiculous laws together. And, you're talking about charging for driving the mileage. It's just another way to get more money because, I was thinking I was driving on 95 yesterday. That's an interstate, has the nice little, blue and white and with the little red trim, signage there. It's a federal highway, right? Well, actually, though, in Maine and part of Massachusetts, it's also considered a turnpike. Even though it was federal dollars that paid for it, you're going to pay them a state toll because it's on their land.
Yeah, and that toll,
that's stupid.
Well, in Pennsylvania, they put toll booths along the PA Turnpike initially to pay for the turnpike. We got to pay for the turnpike. Back in the 40s, they put these toll booths up, and that was that, right? They were supposed to end when they pay for the turnpike.
They never do.
They've never removed them. How many tolls do you see on bridges? Well, we have to have the tolls to pay for the bridge. Okay, the bridge was paid for 35 years ago. Well, hey, listen, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was interesting that we should point out on this program. There's so much to talk about. We had J.D. Vance speak at Annapolis over the weekend. Did a masterful job, a terrific, articulate guy, young guy, and he did them well. We had President Trump go to West Point, and he was absolutely on his mark. I mean, he was really a terrific speech, and they loved him up there. Now, cut to Smith College in Amherst. Amherst, by the way, is a big college town in Massachusetts. That's where they have the Amherst College. They have the University of Massachusetts. The main campus is in Amherst. And Smith College is in Amherst, too. And they gave an honorary degree. I should also point out that it's a women's college, all women's college.
Oh, okay.
To this day, it's still an all women's college. Most of these colleges have dropped that regulation, but not Smith. No, they're still a historically all women's college, and they remain so. So they had to get somebody in to give a speech, and they did. And they gave that somebody an honorary doctorate degree. And that honorary degree went to a woman of great stature.
I know who it is.
A woman who rediscovered herself over the past 10 years or so. A woman who, up until not too long ago, called herself Richard. That's right, Rachel Levine, the Admiral, got an honorary degree from Smith College. What they said at Smith College to every woman out there is, we looked everywhere, and we couldn't find one woman who was good enough to get an honorary degree other than Rachel Levine this year.
Well, apparently they can't find anybody anywhere in the state of Massachusetts because they were talking about, the Harvard getting its money yanked and the students having to go back, and Maura Healey had to put her chops into it, saying, well, we can't get qualified students or people qualified to fill roles in this state, so we have to go out of the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're stupid, your kids are stupid, your family's stupid, and they don't want you in Massachusetts.
Well, the other thing that Trump did that really, it's like he jabs them with, it's like he pokes Harvard every couple of days, drives them nuts. Over the weekend, he put a Truth Social together, and he said, I think I'm going to take the $3 billion we're giving Harvard and disperse it amongst the trade schools in the United States. Well, the trade schools, they were delighted. They applauded. This is money from heaven. This is great. Harvard went ballistic. Yeah, they haven't yelled uncle yet, but boy, are they close. Boy, but see, they don't know how to end this. Harvard, all they know is, my God, we're all liberals, and we don't know how to capitulate. We don't know how to end this with that bad man Trump. All you have to do, guys, is say, okay, we're going to not give preferential treatment to one group over another. We're not going to, they don't, if you look at the people who come into Harvard, who are accepted to Harvard, and I saw a chart, it was amazing. They have a chart where it's like 56% of the acceptees are black. The next category that is large is Hispanic, and it's like 28%. Then you go to the whites are like 20%, and the Asians are like 18%. I mean, it doesn't, and those are, I'm not totally accurate on those figures, but I'm really close, okay? I saw it over the weekend. I thought, this is ridiculous. They have a preferential deal at Harvard. You just, if they judge based upon race. They judge you based upon race. I know people who applied to Harvard who had everything about their academic record perfect. I mean, 4.0 average in high school. They were in the advanced placement. They did all of the, they want you to be a well-rounded person when you go to college. So they did all the outside activities, and they were great in that. They had a perfect resume. Harvard didn't accept them. They applied to Harvard, and they didn't get accepted. Every other school they applied to accepted them and offered them scholarships, but Harvard didn't accept them. And well, there's only one reason: they weren't the right color. They didn't fit a racial category. It wasn't the grades. Can't be the grades.
Okay. Is there a benefit to going with certain races or nationalities from different countries? Do they get more money somewhere?
Well, I think they do, Bill. I think that's a good question. I think they get more funding. But the interesting thing about it is, folks, they use that government funding that they're squawking about. I didn't realize this, but Bill Ackman said this over the weekend on a piece that we played. He said, don't make the mistake of thinking that Harvard doesn't need the government funding because it has $53 million, $1 billion worth of endowments.
Right.
Endowments are pledges, but it's not the money. Endowments are people saying, yeah, we'll give you $1 million or $1 billion or whatever. We'll give you X amount of dollars because we like you. Yeah, we'll do that. But they haven't done it yet. They haven't got the money. It's a pledge, but it's not the actual handing over of the cash. The money they rely on that does the day-to-day stuff at Harvard, apparently, is the government funding. So when Trump yanks that government funding, they got problems. They got problems big time. And but they don't know how to deal with it. And by the way, it's happening at Columbia, Princeton, Brown. All of the Ivy League schools are having this problem right now. And it's going to continue because they don't, the left just, they don't know how to end a fight. You know what I'm saying? Because they're used to getting everything given to them their entire existence. Everybody in that administration at Harvard, they've just had stuff handed to them year after year after year. So now they have a real problem. They don't know how to deal with it. Look at this acting president at Columbia, Claire Shipman. She used to be on television on I think CBS, maybe it was NBC. She used to be a reporter, but now she's the president, the acting president of Columbia University. And people thought, oh, she may be a good president because she was standing up to the troublemakers until the graduation ceremony. At the graduation ceremony, she bent over backwards to kiss their gluteus maximus. They don't know how to act. The left doesn't know how to act in a grown-up way, in my opinion.
Well, they're spoiled brats, yeah.
They all think in a very supercilious way that they are smarter than you, brighter than you, better looking than you, have done more than
course.
you. I have my doctorate degree from Harvard. You do? My God, yes. Shall we go to tea? Of course we should. They have an attitude which is not based in reality. You sit down with a guy who does your plumbing on your house, and he cuts to the chase, tells you about what's wrong with your. They're real people.
Your pipes are clogged.
Yeah, your pipes are clogged, but I can fix it, and he does. You get a guy with a doctorate degree from Harvard in sociology. Get a sociology degree doctorate from Harvard to come out and fix your plumbing. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know which end of the wrench to hold.
Well, you'd probably have a garden that is, really delicate and special and should not be exposed to chemicals and then spray them on them.
Yes,
that's a little side joke there that Jib's going, you stupid.
Let's not talk about that. Yeah, I don't need that. Anyway, I have more stuff, but I'm looking at the clock on the wall, and I think we can wrap this one up. It's going to be a busy, short week.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it's Tuesday, not Monday, but it's going to be a busy week.
I was gone over the weekend. Say hi to Ryan, who I can't remember the last name. He's the Channel 4 weather person in Hartford on the NBC station. But anyway, happened to run into a bunch of people out of the pool. Well, you sound like you're in radio. Well, you sound like you're in, I do weather.
I think if it's in Hartford, it's Channel 3. I'm just saying. Because there is no Channel 4 in Hartford. Take it from somebody who worked at Hartford. I know.
All right. Well, either way, I knew he's weather guy in Hartford, NBC. So that's all I know. So whatever channel it is.
If it's NBC, that's Channel 30 in Hartford. Seriously.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yes.
I don't know. I actually ran into a couple of media people, which is weird, over the weekend. The other thing is some good news. We'll end on a good note. Trump, now I just saw these polls yesterday that Trump, his approval rating is 50%. You know how they had him down around 42, 43, which I still thought was good.
Yeah.
But he's 50%. But just out this morning at 7:15, a poll the Democrats are going to hate because he's pulled ahead of that. He's up 5 points among black voters. He's up over that 50%. And the Democrats are sinking. As a matter of fact, talk about those clogged pipes. They got them cleared, and they're going down the drain.
Really?
Just to say, that's all. That's all.
Really? Oh, my gosh.
But, polls, they change daily.
Yes,
so
they do.
If you live by them, you die by them.
Exactly right. The polls aren't worth the paper they're written on. I keep reminding myself of the 2016 election where on election night they said that Hillary was going to blow Trump out of the water, and it was at 9 o'clock all of a sudden they got the results in, and the expression on the face of the anchors, I think one of them cried. One of the ABC anchors actually cried when Trump won. They were dancing in the streets up until 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that says something right there. I mean, I'm not even going to go down that path. Just leave it alone.
Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it this week.
Yeah, we really do. But I don't have breakfast made, but it's going to be made here shortly.
So I think you should wrap this thing up and go eat.
I think so too, because my stomach's growling, and I need some coffee, I need some eggs, I need some bacon and toast. So with that said, I'm just going to say...
Well, I'll tell you one thing you don't need.
What?
You don't need ham. You have enough of that in your...
Yeah. I look in the mirror and I see ham. With that said, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.